Welcome everyone to our webinar on Beyond Deforestation, Integrated Solutions for Comprehensive EUDR Compliance. I'm Flávia Salles from Finboot. I'm here with my colleague Álvaro Llobet, Head of Product at Finboot, and our technology partner, Harry Marshall, CEO of OpenAtlas, a company that leverages remote sensing technology. So today we will explore the complexities of EUDR compliance and discuss how integrated solutions can streamline this compliance process for business. So before we go ahead, I will ask for our guests to introduce themselves. So first of all, Álvaro, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Flavia. So a pleasure to be here. My name is Álvaro Llobet. I am the head of product. I have a business background, even though I have been in technology my whole career, working as a consultant, and I have been in Finboot for the last, I think it's 8 years, more or less, so a long time. From sales, marketing operations into leading our product department. Now I help at the end our clients and large enterprises to comply with complex regulations, as for example, EUDR, CBAM, among many others, with our MARCO Track and Trace application, that at the end is a traceability tool. No? Today we will speak around EUDR mainly, but if you want to know anything else around Finboot, please contact me, myself, my team, Flavia, or anyone at Finboot. Harry, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Álvaro. My name is Harry Marshall. I am one of the co-founders over at OpenAtlas. As you may understand, we are a remote sensing geospatial verification provider. There are a lot of very big words to describe essentially the downloading of satellite imagery, high-resolution, high-frequency satellite imagery, and the use of machine learning tools to analyze those for different phenomena around the world. Specifically in our partnership with Finboot and the work that we're doing around the European Union's Deforestation Regulation, we're using this technology to identify where land use change is occurring, where that represents deforestation or forest degradation under the European Union's Deforestation Regulation. And I'm sure we'll talk much about that today and some of the other things that we're doing. But yeah, very happy to be here with one of our favorite partners, Finboot.
Thank you. So before we dive into our main discussion, I think it's nice to give our audience some context. Probably most of them know already what EUDR is, but I like to explain a little bit for the ones that don't know. So the EUDR Deforestation Regulation is a European law that aims to minimize the European contribution to global deforestation and forest degradation. We have seen on the past 30 years a loss of 10% of forest land, so this is very important. And it affects a wide range of commodities and derived products, such coffee, cattle, palm oil, soya, and wood. And this regulation also places significant responsibilities on operators and traders to ensure their products are deforestation-free and legally produced. Now, let's dive in some questions I have prepared for you, both of you. Harry, you recently shared an article on your LinkedIn about how integrated tools can help business not only achieve compliance, but also optimize their supply chains and drive sustainability efforts. And as we are going to explore today, why deforestation monitoring is crucial, it's only one piece of the EUDR puzzle, right? So yeah. Could you explain how does the EUDR compliance extend beyond deforestation monitoring, and what are the primary challenges business face?
Yeah, certainly. I like how you described EUDR compliance as a puzzle, because I think that is a very apt description. There are many different parts that are involved in this, and fitting them together in an efficient way is either going to end up with something that looks good and does the job, or is a complete mess. I was sick recently, so I did a puzzle at home recently, and I can assure you that's a very good description. Yeah, so I was using the metaphor to describe EUDR compliance and the different services that are available to in-scope operators, traders, and different businesses that are impacted by the regulation or find themselves with a compliance burden around the regulation. And I was using this metaphor of a Swiss Army knife, right? So there are services online, definitely, other services available that allow you to take a little bit of everything, right? Because ultimately the EUDR requires a little bit of everything. What we do is one component of that. So we are a geospatial layer. We take information that we get from our partners and from their customers about where their producers are in the world. And we zoom in there and we analyze for deforestation risk analysis, other legality insights around that as well. But that is just one very small part of the regulation. And the rest of the regulation is perhaps a little bit more typical from a risk and compliance perspective, but it's more complex in many ways as well, because at the end of the day, our job is easy to some extent because we have a technology that plugs in, can scalably, easily automate this part of the process. But indeed, it is just one part of the process. We could look at the regulation from top to bottom and go article by article and look at the different specializations that are required. But how I like to think about it in the most simple terms are what you need is traceability to understand your supply chain. Of course, you can perform no due diligence on your producers if you don't know where they are or who they are. Beyond that, once you have performed the traceability that Finboot is so good at, you need to perform risk analysis or audit and verification there. You need to perform a traditional risk assessment on that plot. You need to identify its risk around deforestation, legality, are the goods produced legally in that country. And then from there, we step in and do a small part of that puzzle, but a technologically challenging part of that puzzle, which is providing verification, defensible evidence, you would say, to prove that this producer that Finboot has traced and someone else has performed perhaps the risk and compliance assessment on, to make sure that there is verifiable evidence that they have not contributed to deforestation. So you can understand how each one of these different aspects of the regulation and service provision around that requires a specialization that I think not one company can do on their own. And this is why we're so excited to work with Finboot, because they perform a link in the chain that is so vital, which we can get into more in time as well, perhaps in this conversation. But it really is taking the best-in-class solution of Finboot, combining that with internal compliance, your own risk assessments, risk assessment functions of Finboot's technology as well, and then augmenting that with our remote sensing technology as well. So the goal is always to make EUDR compliance easier for businesses, make it less of a burden, and where possible, reduce the costs associated with that as well through efficiency. So I think that's a summary of sorts, but I could talk for an hour about it, but I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, definitely this is a good summary to start the conversation, definitely. I think you touch points some of the main key challenge that companies face, and of course, how our partnership can really to help them out on those. And I would like to ask our opinion as well on that, around specifically how EUDR compliance extend beyond deforestation monitoring, because I want to know what companies are kind of facing that they need to comply with ahead of beyond the deforestation monitoring. If you can
Sure.
tell something about it.
And I will take maybe the conversation from a little bit of a perspective of how in Finboot we have approached EUDR. No, so for a little bit of context, what we built back in the time when we started operating at the end was a traceability tool. So our application is mainly a traceability tool that enables us to, by one side, gather information from supply chain of our clients and then structure it in a way that we can generate DPPs, we can trace through different models, and then at the end integrate with different solutions as OpenAtlas. No, so at the end, that traceability tool is what enables us, as Harry was saying, to be able to gather the information that is so necessary for EUDR compliance. No, I also think that for addressing this topic, we need to speak about how the European Union is now addressing regulations. And I think that that is a crucial point to understand how systems, our system and how enterprises need to face this new era of regulation. No, first of all, EUDR applies to a lot of industries, even though at the end we have some kind of raw materials that are affected. No, we have an HS code list that are kind of all the products. You, Flavia, mentioned some of them. Of course, also those have derivatives, so products that are made from those that are also affected. And then we see a bunch of products. No, so we have food and beverage, we have chemicals, we have many, of course, like raw materials that at the end will then compose end product that we use in our daily basis. No, and the European Union is now addressing this regulation from a near real-time approach. So what that means is that whenever we are importing those goods inside the European Union, we need to comply with that regulation, submitting information. And that is a whole new level of complexity compared into what we were looking before, that was quarterly reports, annual reports, so those regulations that are more on a time-based frame. No, with EUDR, we are understanding that that gets away from that level of kind of monthly, yearly, quarterly regulations into real time. When we do this shift of paradigm, then we understand that the first thing that we need is kind of to automate the process. Because for a small company or a medium, I would say that only for a small company to comply is maybe possible to do it manually. But when we get into a big level of products that are going to flow into your supply chain, that is not possible to make it in a manual way. And because of that also is affecting your direct operations. So imagine that you have palm oil that you are using in your operations, and then you understand that that is a product that is deforested, how that then is going to affect your operational planning. What are you going to do with that product? How you're going to, at the end, affect your real operations of manufacturing, no? So taking all this scenario in consideration, what we did from at the end from Finboot was build an automated process that integrates with OpenAtlas, because at the end, you guys are the experts on that area, and then we can automate the whole process so that at the end the company doesn't need to worry around that compliance, no?
Yeah, I think that the EUDR ask for a holistic approach, right? We know that the challenge also lies on data collection, and because we have so many operators and stakeholders within the supply chain, you have this difficulty on data standardization and also the interpretability. And I think that part of our partnership, Finboot and OpenAtlas, it's kind of create this specifically solution for EUDR compliance. So would you say, and I will make the question, and then you can decide who want to to answer that one. But considering this holistic approach that I'm talking about, do you think that what make integrated solutions like the one that we are offering more effective than the standalone solution that in addressing EUDR compliance?
Yeah, I mean, Álvaro, I might jump in here and answer this one, because it's really at the core of how we do our business as well. Because, of course, there are all of these different solution providers, be they traceability providers, audit and verification providers, remote sensing providers, data collectors, all of these different people. And you can theoretically sign up to each one of these different technologies or service providers and get a service that does something. Now, that is possible by all means, but it is terribly inefficient. And when we're dealing with, as Álvaro quite rightly pointed out, an incredibly onerous regulation on some sense, that it requires monitoring, it requires product-specific, shipment-specific compliance and due diligence statements, then when you're navigating between these different technology providers or service providers, porting information from us to Finboot, to someone else, to your own internal system, is where the piping starts to become very complicated. And in that, you start to lose a sense of standardization between all of these different systems. And this is exactly what we're talking about when we partner together, is to say, all right, instead of having these different siloed technologies, let's bring them together into one unified approach as much as is possible to make your life easier. There's one standardized data schema in Finboot platform that interacts with our system automatically. It is, at the end of the day, trying to make your jobs easier around EUDR compliance, because there is the right way, the wrong way, the hard way, and the easy way. And I think what we're trying to build here, and what we've made great strides in doing, and we will continue to do, is make that easy way accessible to your business, no matter the size and the scale of it, where it is in the world, what commodities you're dealing with. Trying to simplify this process as much as possible, because I come from a background of working in regulatory compliance. I know how onerous it can be. And one of the key learnings there is using technology or leveraging technology to simplify and make that more efficient. Again, I think that is at the core of what we're trying to do, and it's quite unique on the market as well. Álvaro, I'm not sure if you've got a comment on that.
No, I think that you nailed it at the end. No, so when we are thinking and when we are discussing this with our clients, at the end, what we understand, as you said, is like they have a nightmare in terms of operation every day without including EUDR or any other regulation. So like their job is enoughly complex without regulation. So at the end, what we want to do is that this is not a burden into their daily operations, into that complexity that they already have. No, that includes, of course, all the bits and pieces that you already covered. No, but yeah, at the end of the day, what we want to do is make this as easier as it can, so that comply to something that at the end we want to do, that is achieves more of a sustainable landscape for supply chains, is easy, is accessible for everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I think it is very helpful. And Álvaro, because you are already speaking and you being head of the product, I would like to dive in the solution specifically. I know that we have been talking how we can help business that are struggling to comply, but I really want to know on how MARCO Track and Trace really align with this integrated approach, and specifically on the features that we really can provide. If we can kind of be more specific on that, I think we can clarify as well.
Sure, I can dig a little bit deep into how we have solved this for our clients and our approach to the market. Now, I need to say something before, that is that we have a very agnostic way of approaching this to our implementations. What that means is that we can configure it depending on the supply chain of our clients, on their process. No, we work with large chemical manufacturers, for example, but also with other industries, food and beverage, and many others that at the end have this type of issues. And our way of addressing this can be adapted into every type of supply chain, into any process. But at the
sorry, because this, what you say, also touch base with Harry said before on the specialization. I think this background that Finboot has also helps to.
Sure.
Right.
You're completely right. And what we found in our journey into traceability is that there's no company that is the same to other. Like there's no companies that are the same. Like that, it doesn't happen in supply chain. Like you have different suppliers, different processes, different logistic shipments, different teams that collaborate in different levels. No, but getting a little bit into how we work on this, I would say that we can divide it into different segments, and you, Harry, already covered some of them. First of all, for us is data gathering. No, EUDR, and a clear point for EUDR is data gathering. By one side,
a large volumes of data.
Exactly.
Huge volumes.
Huge volumes of data. So first of all, you need, and also we can separate if you are importing into the European Union or you are buying inside of the European Union. Those are two different scenarios that we can find. And of course, we are going to get a little bit into the detail. No, the most complex one is importing into the European Union. For complying with EUDR, first of all, you will need to request information to your suppliers, and we can do that in many different ways. There's no correct way of doing it. We can do it through integration, we can do it through mailboxes, we can do it directly from submitting into our application. But also we have a supplier portal that is kind of, you can think of as a Google form that the suppliers of our clients will receive to submit the information directly. No, once that we are looking into, as you're saying, that kind of large volume of data, we then need to orchestrate it in a way. What that means is that when you are receiving a shipment of one supplier, then you need to receive the data, and then you will need to submit that into the European Union portal. It's called Traces. No, from our approach, at the end, we are handling all this complexity from you. In that process is where Harry, maybe, and you can explain a little bit more what you guys do, but that is where you will need to verify that the raw material that you are buying is not deforested. That is at the end the key of the deforestation regulation, no? And there is where at the end we are not experts on that, and from the beginning we took that approach that we are not experts on this, no? And we wanted to count with an expert, so that's the reason we contacted OpenAtlas and Harry.
And from what I understood, all that being real-time monitoring and immutable recording keeping, right?
Exactly. All of that, just to give a last sense. Every data that gets inside our platform, we, as we started with blockchain traceability, at the end, MARCO Track and Trace is blockchain traceability powered. What that means is that every data that gets inside of our platform is immutable. It can't be changed and it's verifiable. No? So at the end, all of that is kind of an extra added value, because one of the things that we know is that sharing data between enterprises, between enterprise and also regulators is complex. We wanted to add kind of a layer of immutability, certification, you can call it that way.
Okay, thank you, Álvaro. I do have a question for Harry now. Harry, you mentioned your background, and I always like to our guests to share their experience. So based on your expertise with OpenAtlas and even other partnerships that you have, what are the market perceptions, your market perceptions, the best practice? I mean, we already talked about the key challenge, but would you mind to give us something from your expertise?
Yeah, certainly. I think this is the million-dollar question, right? How to do EUDR compliance efficiently. And I'm in the unique position where I get to talk to a lot of different businesses that are trying a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, as Álvaro said, no two businesses are the same, but they are very similar, you know, especially when they're trying to comply with the EUDR, a singular regulation. There are things that they need to do that are the same. And I think, you know, what are some of the best practices? At this stage, my biggest best practice to advise any business would be to start early. To get started, do something, start thinking about the EUDR, because 10 months away may seem like a while away, and it may seem like someone else's problem. It may not be in your quarterly goals or KPIs for Q1, but I can assure you that a lot of work needs to be done in advance. And I think, Álvaro, you were speaking towards this as well, which is the pure data gathering is one step, right? And I think what Finboot does very well is they assist you with the data gathering. They assist you to understand and get traceability and visibility on your supply chain. But if you've ever worked with suppliers before as a customer, you know that they have a tendency to give you information that can sometimes, or data that can sometimes not be very good. So if in, you know, Q3 this year, you start to get that data, by the time it all comes in, it may not be very usable. And then you're really running against the clock. So my advice is to get the ball rolling now, to start using some of the functionality that we have with Finboot that allows you to verify that data, make sure the geolocations make sense, make sure that the EU can accept those geolocations and the polygons or the latitudes and the longitudes, start to iron out a lot of the kinks that are, or the hurdles, the challenges that are all around when it comes to the EUDR compliance. I would also say this is another big piece of advice that I think businesses really should wake up to, or just recognize that it's available to them as well, is purely just to have a look at the solutions that are available out there from a technology perspective. Of course, the EUDR is challenging because it's a new regulation that requires a lot of work. But on the other hand, what it's created is a whole industry of service providers like OpenAtlas, like Finboot, like other businesses that are providing a service around this regulation that I wake up every day and our product has got one goal. It is to make life easier for businesses. just like you. If you're in scope of this regulation, we exist to make life easier, and we exist to bring the costs down on what would otherwise be your compliance burden around that. So just being aware that there are services out there that can support you. You don't need to do all of this on your own. There are pain points that we have observed and we've built into the solution, that Finboot have observed and built into the solution as well. Yeah, use the help that is there, because it doesn't need to be as hard as it could otherwise be if you do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, your tips are very good, especially for those businesses that are starting their EUDR journey. So great tips on that. Do you remember any, I don't know, common pitfalls or how to avoid them?
I don't think I would be speaking out of turn when I really just get started, is my biggest advice. We were running into enforcement at the end of last year, and I think using that as a guideline for what's going to happen this year, it's going to be the same thing just a year later. So the pressure that you were feeling last year, you've gotten this huge wave of relief with the 12-month delay in enforcement. Use that effectively. Have a conversation with Álvaro, with myself. Shoot us a message and we can just talk about some of the challenges that your business might have and how we can help with that. And just so you're thinking about it and we can start to conceptualize solutions. I think just getting started is the way to go there. Don't put off till tomorrow what you should do last year in this case.
Yes, indeed. Okay, thank you. And Álvaro, I think I want to make the same questions. I mean, looking ahead, in your opinion, how can business prepare for the potential changes, not only in EUDR requirements? For example, we know that in June of this year, they are going to publish the countries' ranks, right? And how to ensure this long-term compliance.
So I have been writing because I think your advice is specifically on spot. Maybe if I can add a couple of recommendations, I would say, following up, as you say, on start early, like get advice from the market. No, so at the end, this is something that is happening. EUDR is affecting many companies. You can speak with us. You can speak at the end with also peers. You can speak into what is happening in the market because context.
Get some lessons learned, right?
Exactly.
Adopters. Yeah.
Exactly. Context will give at the end guidance in many ways. No. On the other side, I think that one thing that is very important that I have seen that is a problem in implementing EUDR in terms of enterprises mainly is that you need context from many different areas. So EUDR is not something that is affecting, for example, sustainability. It's affecting many different departments. So in an implementation of EUDR, you will need sustainability for sure, but you will need business, you will need supply chain, you will need operations, you will need IT. So all of this at the end are different contexts and different domains that you will need to bring on board so that at the end you are going to be able to comply. The reason, as Harry said, of starting early is not other that the EUDR is going to affect many different areas of your business. You are going to need to integrate many different systems, many different processes, people, context, and all of that. What means is complexity. And for, at the end, reducing complexity, in these cases, you will need time. Of course, also you will need us, but in terms of your internal businesses, you will need time. No? So you will need to start early. And if I need to say my last bit of advice is don't wait to have everything under at the end control in a way to start. Like start having conversations in the terms of trying to implement, start trying to let's connect, let's try to start defining different workflows, different process, testing, as Harry said, with your suppliers, geolocation data. So if you don't start testing the different bits of the puzzle that you will need to have ready for the start of the implementation, you will be late, for sure. Because things are going to change, things are going to fail, and you need time, you need a buffer of time so that you can put everything online to be ready when, at the end, we will need to start complying with the EUDR.
Yeah. I might just jump in there as well, because something that's on my mind is try and stop me. Something that's on my mind is that a 5-minute, a 10-minute, a 15-minute conversation with myself, with someone from the Finboot team, with us together, can save you a headache that you otherwise would have had for months. Because I have these conversations every single week with someone where I hop on a phone call, I explain the product, I explain how it can help them, and you can see a sigh of relief, because it's something that otherwise has been keeping them up at night. And if that resonates with anyone who's watching this, then please just get in touch, because, as I say, there are technology providers like ourselves who have built whole products. We've got whole teams of very smart people who are thinking about how to solve these problems for you. So, yeah, if that sounds familiar, feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, thank you for collaborate. I also want to participate. I think if everyone wants to know more about EUDR compliance, they can download our playbook on that. And we have a bunch of information about the regulation, the timeline, but also a checklist on what you need to do, what you need to check. And especially on the side of Álvaro was talking that you need to integrate with other areas. So take a look at the checklist and see each other areas that you need to bring to the conversation to answer those questions. So I'm going to add on the video the link for download this playbook, and you are more than welcome. So I think we don't have more time, but that's why I'm going to thank you, both of you, for your invaluable insights. And of course, a big thanks for everyone that is joining us, who is watching this video. And I hope this discussion really helped to clarify EUDR compliance and the benefits of an integrated solutions as the one that we are providing together with OpenAtlas. And for more information, as both of them say, please reach out our team. I'm going to add our QR code for LinkedIn, so you can stop this video now, read the QR code, and reach out of any of us team, and we can, of course, help you in your EUDR compliance journey. Please also visit our webpage and follow us on social media. And see you in the next videos. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.